News Across the Galaxy presents the Midweek Show. I'm your host, Brian, and right next to me is Mr. Edgar Zuniga. How you doing, sir?
What's up, man? I'm over here in front of the stadium, as you guys can see. I'm still waiting for a client to leave the building, but he's still holed up in there in that bunker of his. So, gotta hold the line, baby.
Gotta hold the line, baby. And special guest all the way from the Colorado Rapids. Wait, Colorado Rapids from the Rockies, Mr. Matt Pollard from Holding the Line, Holding the High Line. I fucked that up twice.
Thanks for
how you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's very
Yeah.
similar to someone who's in MLS, but not necessarily in the Galaxy circle. We'll see NAG News and maybe be confused by that acronym and what everything stands for. We go by HTHL for short. And for listeners who are wondering, yes, it is a triple entendre. So there's a reference to the Mile High City, and there's a reference to something else as well that me and my co-host will occasionally partake in during or after podcasts.
Hey.
That's
Lips are sealed
Colorado.
over here. All right, first question. That intro that you guys have on your show, it's a very
Yes.
interesting intro. To me, it sounds very Colorado, but what's the story behind that?
Yeah, so we had a couple iterations of the podcast intro that we had initially. Rabbi and I, we started the podcast in the 2018 season, and originally he just did like a very crappy acoustic guitar version of Mountain Road as well. We had a listener who actually like is a music producer and like came up with like some stock music and just put some stuff in as well. And then we decided maybe 2-3 seasons ago now that we wanted to have our own music. And for the most part, when that comes up, we try to reach out within the community if there's anybody who does something. So Galaxy fans who are big on Twitter probably know Wanners at Wanners715, who's a member of the C38 board, and then he also does some music. He has his own SoundCloud. So I reached out to him and I said, hey Juan, here's what we're going for. Can you do the music track and everything? So all the people singing in the back half of the intro, all of the music, all the acoustic stuff is all on him. And then we thought it would be funny to add in some random quotes from players and other people around the team, just out of context randomly. I think last season, and we do a different one every single season. And so there was one where we did like a ridiculous quote from all of the past head coaches. So we had the Pablo Mastroeni, the stats will lose to the human spirit one. And we had the Anthony Hudson, we're fighting at the bottom with a bottom group of players. And to just hear that before you're listening to our first episode where we preview the new season, everything is hilarious. So we found a couple quotes from players that we thought was ridiculous. And then Bryant, the one that we have at the end where you'll hear an Irish accent saying, I'll tell you what, Matt, we don't get much by you. That was in a press call that we had with now President Porrick Smith. And I asked him about a very nebulous detail regarding the timing of Austin Trustees. When Austin Trustee was bought last year in January by Arsenal and then loaned to the Rapids, there was a specific end date for the loan, and that date got moved up and everything, and it happened like very last minute. The Rapids front office does not get minute details past me, so I figured him saying that randomly was kind of fun. We've gotten a couple shout outs actually from Apple TV people, so assuming that Apple lawyers won't come after us for copyright, maybe that'll be in the intro next year.
Hopefully that'd be amazing. All right, well, let's get into some MLS Colorado talk. The trade deadline just passes by. What grade do you give the original Colorado Rapids? Because I know from our side it wasn't the best. Granted, we had sanctions and we have all these things on our side, but you guys have a summer window and you guys went through this trade deadline. How do you grade it?
So if we're going through the whole of the transfer window for, I guess, the start of January, so I guess not including Kevin Cabral, but it's choosing the other three European players and some of the internal MLS moves as well. I'd give it a solid B. Andreas Makshu, center back DP, normally you'd question that decision. I think it makes sense for the Rapids because we don't pay money for strikers, clearly, at least not internationally, and he's been excellent. Connor Ronan, by the second or third game, I was like, this is another level of Jack Price. The two of them playing together are going to be fantastic. That hasn't happened because Price is out for the season due to his Achilles, but you hit solidly on two other players. You filled in depth in other roles as well. There's still a question at left back. I still think there's a valid question. What are you're doing at the winger position. If Brian Galvan gets healthy, if Kevin Cabral gets on a good run, then you don't have to worry about that. But Brian, in terms of the actual deadline itself, having 7-8 games to figure out where you were and then trying to do something at the end, I'd only give it really a C. Danny Leva's a nice stopgap solution for what you're trying to do with, in the midfield and everything, to free up a Connor Ronan, to free up a Brian Acosta and everything. So I don't mind it. You're taking a chance on a kid, but I still don't understand an inner MLS loan where you don't have the option to buy, given you gave up a draft pick and you gave up general allocation money so you could get a player that you could develop for the Seattle Sounders. Like what does it say about the Rapids when effectively on some level they're the development team for the Sounders first team and everything? So that was still a little weird for me. But functionally what that does do is it leaves open a senior roster spot. There's a possibility they'd free up an international roster spot with Calvin Harris getting his green card. So just like last year, the real question from a roster build standpoint for the Rapids is what they do in the summer. Last year, they traded Mark Anthony Kaye, former LAFC midfielder. They got a whole bunch of general allocation money. They got a nice young guy in Ralph Frizo, and they freed themselves up to do another big move, and that didn't really work out. So all of this is in the context of, we know the Rapids are going to need help. Maybe they figured out the midfield. Maybe they need somebody in attack. Maybe they need a left back and everything. We know what we're going to need by the summer. Porrick Smith needs to actually go out and get it, and excuses of we didn't have the time or we didn't prepare or KSE doesn't give us money will not be an acceptable excuse from the fan base. So to answer your question, Brian, I guess ultimately it's an incomplete. Ask me in November if the Rapids make the playoffs.
But it feels on your side of the deadline, it seems way more progressive than what we have. The summer transfer window is a big deal, and I got to watch Colorado's last game, and solidly defensive built team. All you guys are really missing is just that striker, that a Cabral, but that actually knows how to play. Somebody who could get on the pitch and give you some positive moments, give you some goals, give you something moving forward.
I'm sorry, and you also mentioned getting Connor Ron in there and him working. The hope that he would work alongside Jack Price, and obviously Jack Price isn't there, right? I remember when he got injured, and I follow the league very very closely, and Jack Price is one of those players that I really admire, and so I saw him go down, and I was like, oh no, this is not good for the Rapids. I wonder how they're gonna recover from this, if at all. And can you tell us the kind of impact his loss has been for this team?
Yeah, I mean, devastating. He's been the captain of the team for a couple of years now. He really adapted to MLS really well from a physicality standpoint and a style of play, like completely bought in. And he's exactly what the Rapids were needing in a number 6, someone who can go hard into tackles, but he's organized the team defensively from a structural standpoint. Obviously, he's pinging long balls to a Jonathan Lewis, a Kevin Cabral last year, Sam Nicholson as well. And you look at it, he was the architect of the set piece kings of MLS that finished top of the Western Conference in 2021 with, the most dead ball assists in the league as well. You lose all of that. What you lose is a lot of leadership, and you lose the defensive structure and the offensive side of the game as well, as we'll get to in a minute. To your point, Brian, about what the Rapids are missing in the attack right now, for that first half of Vancouver where the Rapids were just trying to get their wits about them, the offense was literally win the ball back in the defensive third, pass it to Diego Rubio, and then him hit a 40-yard ball to Michael Barrios. That was the entire attack that the Rapids were trying to do. And that's what they kind of had to do given the circumstances and everything. So I don't fault, Robin Fraser's he's coaching with one arm tied behind his back because Jack Price is out and Colbass is coming back from a hamstring injury. Brian Galvan hasn't yet been ready. We thought he was going to be fantastic last year. He tore his ACL as well, and he's trying to make it work. So they have a lot of injuries right now. The initial injury report for this week is looking really promising with them being mostly healthy, but not having Jack Price is a huge dent. You look at this team over the course of its history with Jack Price, they're right around 1.5 points per game. That is comfortably a playoff team back when it was only 7 teams making the playoffs. They're just under a point per game without Jack Price. That is literally the difference between comfortable playoff team and we're having a conversation whether or not the only trophy we're winning is the wooden spoon.
Ooh, another question for you. Okay. I'm sorry, Brian. Yeah, another question I had, because another figure that really stands out with Colorado is having William Yarbrough back there guarding Garden Sticks. And I was looking on the Burgundy Wave earlier this season, and I heard that you guys are not having maybe quite possibly a goalkeeping controversy because maybe you made some moves to bring in somebody to back him up. Can you give more explanation on that?
Yeah, so the timing of that's been really fortuitous. So in January, with all the moves that were going on, the Rapids were linked to a number of goalkeepers. Ultimately, they got Marko Ilića, who is a Serbian goalkeeper who is playing. I can't remember the name of the full team. They're abbreviated KDK in the Belgian first division. And so initially they wanted to really buy him. The club didn't really want to deal with that. They wanted to do a loan with an option to buy to see where they were in the summer. They barely stayed up off of relegation, so that was probably the reason. I think they officially stayed up like 2, maybe 3 weeks ago now. And so there's an option to buy in the summer, I think in June. And it's kind of a weird, who does a short-term loan for a goalkeeper that doesn't immediately come in and start right away? So potentially you're having to make a $1 million or more decision on a goalkeeper that, is going to play in 2 Open Cup games and maybe not since then. I think it's really a testament to William Yarbrough's professionalism and kind of seeing the writing on the wall that the first game after Ilić gets signed, he's absolutely fantastic and they get a clean sheet. And he's been fantastic since then. And obviously he was great on the weekend where he officially broke the club record for most clean sheets in the regular season with 30. Previously, it was held by Matt Pickens with 29, who won an MLS Cup with the team in 2010. So the argument I've been making in the Rapids community is the Rapids got a upgrade at goalkeeper by signing a goalkeeper. It just so happens that you signed the backup to piss off the existing starter and make them play better. Like, I don't know how a Rapids fan, as much as they might like Marko Ilić, or they've played with him in FIFA, or they've gotten his FIFA card, or they think he's the future because Yarbrough's 34 and going to be out of contract at the end of the year. You signed a goalkeeper and you got better. I don't know how you can complain about that right now. So Yarbrough's been a fantastic leader. He has stepped up in terms of organizing the defense, in terms of playing better. And he's also been wearing the captain's armband with Price out right now. Make no mistake, Yarbrough has elevated to try and fill the gap that has been left by Jack Price.
Oh, yeah. He had an amazing save in that first half against Vancouver. That I was impressed. Very impressed.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Robin Fraser earlier.
Yes.
Colorado, 9 matches, 1 win. I'm going to take this from you guys' show. How do you guys feel about this low risk, low reward style of football that Robin Fraser has been playing lately?
It can be really frustrating to watch. At the same time, I don't know that there's a better solution right now, because you look at that last week, if you're talking about the Vancouver game specifically, Bryant, the Rapids had to play midweek against a team conditioned to altitude in northern Colorado hailstorm. And then obviously you expended a lot of energy trying to get a result against St. Louis. Went down 1-0 after you should have been up 1-0 at halftime. Ultimately, you get a draw in it. That's great and everything. They're still dealing with a lot of injuries, and they're dealing with a lot of injuries where it's not just that guys are injured. It's you can give him 20 minutes. You don't want to give him a half and then have him get hurt again and then be out for another month as well. So Frazier was working, he had an arm tied behind his back and then he had to cover one of his eyes as well. So I understand the thinking behind it, on the condition that the Rapids are looking at being much healthier this week, playing a much worse team. I would say Vancouver's better than both the Rapids and the Galaxy right now, really going for it on the road to try and get a result against the LA Galaxy. And then obviously I think there's an opportunity to again do some squad rotation. The Rapids play on Tuesday in the Open Cup against Sacramento Republic. So you're probably looking at flying to LA to Sacramento has an airport, right? I think so. They wouldn't fly into SFO. So you fly into Sacramento, and then you probably go Sacramento back to Denver. And then you've got Philadelphia Union on the weekend as well, who are, coming off of losing in CCL and probably going to be really pissed off trying to get a result. So I'm okay with Robin Fraser's approach on the condition that now that they're getting healthier and getting some games where they do have to be a little bit more aggressive, that they can take advantage of that. Because I think you look at that Vancouver game and you sell out defensively against an attack that was not going to adjust or anything. Chicharito is a better player than Brian White. Julian Gressel is a very dangerous wide player in ways that maybe some of your guys' new fullbacks are still getting used to the team as well. And the Galaxy defense can be had in transition in ways that Vancouver's defense cannot. So if the Galaxy come out and it's the 3-4-3 system and they really try to take it to the G's on the weekend, and if they really go for it against Philly, I'm okay with it. If they come out and they play small or they defer to both the Galaxy and Philadelphia, I have to start to question what Robin Fraser thinks this team's potential is for this season. And if he's just playing to be close enough to the playoffs that he doesn't get fired and everything, then that's not ambitious enough for what this club wants to be. To quote Jesse Marsh in UEFA Champions League, "Sue feel respect for the Gegna. You shouldn't be respecting the LA Galaxy right now."
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because over here, everybody is pretty much crestfallen as far as how the Galaxy's been coming up during the season. A lot of people thought that maybe they had gotten over that with that win over Austin, but Austin, they're having their own issues right now. And there's some kind of an identity crisis over there. But it just so happens that in that game against Austin, Ricky Puig picked up his 5th yellow already, 5 yellow cards. And obviously we missed him against Orlando. Galaxy has always had a really hard time in Orlando. And it was just everything that could have gone wrong went wrong in that game. So now the question is, like, how do they rebound? What's going to happen when they come back home? Obviously Ricky Puig is going to be back, but will that loss have had such a negative impact on them? And are they going to be able to rebound from that against a very tough defensive-minded Colorado team? And especially, like when we mentioned Robin Fraser, the relationship he has with Greg Vanney, it always feels like Robin Fraser is always a step ahead of Greg Vanney. And we are seeing Greg Vanney very often get outcoached, and to our great frustration. And that's one of the things that is running through the minds of a lot of us over here right now.
Yeah.
Well,
so a couple. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So a couple of points on there, Ed, for you. Ricky Puig is the player who scares me the most on this Galaxy team. He scares me more than Chicharito. He scares me more than Dejan Joveljic. With the state of where the Rapids midfield could be, you're talking no Jack Price. Brian Acosta is questionable as well for the team. You're looking at playing a bunch of young kids who are not as technically good and not as defensively good. You have Max, who's been improving and kind of in a similar role to Cole Bassett. Bassett's been out with a hamstring injury as well. He's been better from a defensive work rate standpoint, not necessarily like a getting stuck in tackle standpoint. Ralph Prizzo's a little bit more of the, muscle, studs up, ask questions later and everything, but he's been a little bit reckless. So, if anybody, could Ralph Prizzo bring maybe that energy that LAFC brought in the midfield to really knock Ricky Puig off his game? Possibly. Could he also get a dumb yellow card 5 minutes in and then have to be really careful there? Possibly as well. Ricky Puig is the, regardless of what the Rapids midfield looks right now, Ricky Puig is the one player that would scare me going up the middle, that would make life very, very difficult for the Rapids on Saturday. And then about the Vanney Fraser situation, I think it's such a fun narrative between the two clubs and the two of them. You're talking about two center backs who played together back at the LA Galaxy and everything, and then they got to coach together in Toronto. And I'm not sure what Greg Vanney said all in press conferences when he's been asked about it, but there's such a mutual respect for them right now. Robin Fraser absolutely loves Greg Vanney. I think if there was a way for them to still have a relationship, or maybe one of them be technical director and one of them be head coach, they would love that kind of a situation. And at the same time, that gets thrown out the window because Robin Fraser wants to get 3 points and wants to be able to, shake Greg Vanney's hand at the end of 90 minutes and say, I got one on you again. And I'm sure Greg feels the exact same way. To your point, Ed, about Robin out coaching Greg, every single stop that Fraser had prior to getting to Colorado, he had more experience than the head coach that he was working under. He had 2 years with Chivas USA. They were not successful for many reasons that were outside Robin Fraser's control. And then he was an assistant with Mike Pecky, who had no head coaching experience at New York Red Bulls at the end of their, Red Bulls global stuff with Thierry Henry and everything. And then he came in as an assistant for Greg Vanney, who had been working in the academy as well. So they had different levels of experience. I don't know that Robin's ever said this or would admit this publicly as well, but I think going back to the narrative about opportunities for minority head coaches in this league, and you look at what Wilfred Nancy's done with Montreal and now Columbus, it's fantastic. That there's no mistaking that Robin Fraser had excellent resumes to be the head coach of those 3 teams that he's had. And he had a number of interviews that didn't really work out as well. And, you kind of have to ask questions there. Greg did a great job. Robin was a great assistant head coach for them. They won a trophy. Fantastic for that. I'm not questioning Greg's chops or whatever, but the Rapids got a steal in getting Robin how they did and when they did. The Rapids have 2 designated players in Kevin Cabral and in Andreas Makshu. Their 3rd designated player is head coach Robin Fraser.
Sorry, Brian. I just want to jump in real quick. You mentioned Kevin Cabral, and I bring him up because he was such a hot button issue for us during the time he was here with the Galaxy. When he first came over here, he was a great unknown, right? Nobody knew who he was. He came from League Deux, and so we were really wondering if the team had panned for gold and had found something fantastic that we were going to get shocked. Just like Joseph Martinez went to Atlanta and tore everything up. So we went from like being very positive, hoping for something amazing to happen to like, okay, the kid's okay in the first season, and let's see what happens in the second season where everything just fell apart. And so me personally, I don't know how Brian feels, but me personally, I kind of felt when I heard that he got transferred to Colorado, I kind of felt like Robin Fraser was doing Greg Vanney a solid. And then maybe just maybe I felt like, Fraser was like, hey, you know what? Let me see if I can do something with the kid that you were able to do. And, we'll make him something of a more refined product, like he's like a diamond in the rough, and let me have at him. But I still feel that he did him a solid. What do you think, Matt?
If that's the case, can we get Ricky Pooge on a 1-game loan for this weekend? I think that's fair, at least. Yeah. I think Kevin Cabral very much fits the interleague transfer policy that the Rapids have had under Porrick Smith going back a couple years. That even predates Robin Fraser, the distressed assets FC, or I've called it like the revenge of the island of misfit toys. That goes back to Kellen Acosta coming over from FC Dallas. You could include a couple of the Toronto players who they've brought in as well. Finding a guy who is in a bad situation for their club situation, their underlying numbers are good, and just giving him an opportunity in terms of more minutes in a slightly different environment and just being in a different situation where he's going to come in feeling disrespected and pissed off. He knows he's going to get an opportunity and then just go out there and work really hard and try and get something. Kevin Cabral fits that mold. Mark Anthony Kaye coming over from LAFC 2 years ago now fit that mold as well. And then you combine coming into an environment where there's going to be lesser expectations. You're not being looked under a microscope that you have with the LA sports market, with being for the LA Galaxy, with all the connection of international DPs or even of significant French DPs. If we're talking about Romain Alessandrini, who I thought was great for the Galaxy a couple of years ago as well. And so you think different environment, a bunch of guys who work hard, show up disrespected, and then you've got a few native French speakers, which maybe he didn't have. He had a little bit with the Galaxy, I guess, with Grandsir as well. If that doesn't bring something better out of that player, then that's on him. That's a reflection of his quality, not necessarily of that. That's a reflection that just he wasn't going to work in MLS. So it's a nice idea. I still think he's a project. It hasn't really worked out yet so far this season. He hasn't gotten a whole lot of starts, 204 minutes, 2 starts, 8 games played, 1 goal, 5 shots. That is just his MLS stats. He did start the game against Hailstorm, though he didn't score in that game either. So it's still just the 1 goal contribution. You still see a lot of the things that you really like from an underlying standpoint. He's fast. He can beat the offsides trap. He can get open. He can create stuff in transition and everything. He's a humble guy. He works hard defensively and everything, but he gets the ball in a good area. And like you were saying, Ed, when we were talking about that Open Cup game before we hit the record button, he shoots it right at the goalkeeper, and then confidence drops. The fans kind of feel a certain way. The teammates around him, it's like, we worked so hard, Kevin, for you to get this one opportunity. You've got to cash in on that. I don't know. I still think it's way too early it's way too early to judge. There's a bunch of Rapids fans who think like Cabral's already a bust and they should move on, find a way to send him back to France, eat the difference or whatever, and then try and get somebody new in the summer. I still think there's way more that he's able to achieve potential-wise. He's been getting more minutes recently, so maybe he's turning a corner in training. He's still a work in progress, and at some point, expected goals have to become actual goals for this transfer to work out.
It's unfortunate for a player like Kevin Cabral, whose dream is to play football, right? And then you come into a league that has eyes on it from Europe, and you just lay an egg, both teams that you've been on. The LA Galaxy, I think the DP tag was the thing that weighed on him the most, especially because LA Galaxy fans are so demanding of their players. It might not be like that in Colorado, but still that DP tag might be why a lot of Colorado fans are kind of already fed up with it. Because I'm with you, he is a project, and it's not like he's a bad player. He just lacks the finish in that final third, and that you could work on. But at this point in time, I mean, I can feel you guys' frustrations. We went through it for like a whole year and a half, and we got to see the worst of it. One thing that I didn't like about our fan base though was when we had a playoff game here, he got booed into the stadium, and that I wasn't with it. We call the fans out because I think it's very. You're playing a home playoff game. You come in and your home crowd is booing you. Like, how do you think that's gonna make you feel? I really did hope that once he went to Colorado, he would have turned a new leaf and actually been a little bit more productive. Because as much as he didn't produce for us, I still want to see a player like that succeed. Seeing that he's so young and everything like that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Then you said that correctly. It was in the playoff game against Nashville, by the way, which Galaxy won 1-0. Yeah, they brought him in towards the end of the game, and the fans were brutal. There was even somebody, and I hate to bring it up again, but there was even somebody in front of me who the Galaxy had given out these little wristbands that glow in the dark or something. And this idiot started launching wristbands on the field. I'm like, what are you doing? The heck? Who are you? He wasn't, he was like several rows in front of me, and so I didn't have a chance to like do anything. But that's unacceptable behavior, right? Especially against one of your guys. Now, if you're talking about Douglas Costa, yeah, go ahead, boo that punk out of here. But that's a whole different issue. But as far as Cabral, yeah, everybody over here, we all wish him well. Like when he left, we're like, you know what? It didn't work out for us, but hopefully it works out for you in Colorado. And we wish you the best. We hope that you find that inner peace or whatever it is that you need, that fire to get you going. And so that's why a lot of fans, as soon as the Colorado game, peeked over the horizon, a lot of fans, you'll see it on Twitter, like, oh no, here comes Cabral with the Hattie. Oh my God, he's gonna rip us apart. Oh no.
Well, then let's get right into it. May 6th, your LA Galaxy is gonna take on the Colorado Rapids at Dignity Health Sports Park. The return of the
Sith. It's Star Wars night too.
Yeah, and it is Star Wars night. Matt, I've heard your last episode with the Rabbi, and you had a couple points of how you beat the LA Galaxy. One of the things that stood out to me was the fact that you said if Ricky Puig isn't available, we'll be able to control that center midfield. And I kind of agree with you. It will be a tall task for Brugman and Delgado to run the center midfields on their own. Spoiler alert, Ricky Puig is going to play this game. How do you beat this LA Galaxy now with Ricky Puig back and the LA Galaxy coming home after losing in Orlando and maybe trying to get back into that winning column?
I think you rough Ricky Puig up, first of all, to get him thinking about stuff and everything. So, like I said, Brian Acosta, Ralph Prizzo, Connor Ronan, they like themselves a tackle. One of them will be willing and able to take a a yellow card.
I'll take the red.
So, I think there's that element there. I don't know that. I think as long as you have the numbers back, the Rapids defense has done a lot better in terms of gap control the last couple of games as well, and just making sure that players don't have a lot of space. That kind of space where the difference between one guy being 3 feet away from you and one guy being 5 feet away from you, that's the space where Dejan, where Chicha really do their damage and everything. And so I think Lawless Abubakar's really been better. Andreas Makshu's been fantastic. He's been fantastic since joining the team. It's been really good to see him start every single game since he got cleared off of concussion protocol. So I'd expect him to be available in 90 minutes fit and everything. So I think that's how you deal with the LA Galaxy offensively. I think in terms of going forward, I think it's a valid question. I was talking about this on La Cunha earlier today. I was on that as well. So if you listen to that podcast, you'll hear me as well say something similar. I think it's a valid question. What does Greg Vanney come out with again? Because he almost seems to be in denial about this 3-5-2, whether or not it can work or whether or not it's worth the risk and everything. And if you're looking at a flat 4-4-2 where the Galaxies, where the Rapids are more aggressive going on their left flank than they are on the right against the Douglas Costa and everything, Sam Nicholls Nicholson's going to be able to get his. So I think there's more stuff. I think the Galaxy can be had in transition in ways that Vancouver was not. And if you've got healthy players coming back in a Sam Nicholson who can give you 90 minutes, and a Keegan Rosenberry who can give you 90 minutes, in Diego Rubio, who's no longer questionable, maybe even a Brian Galvan or Kevin Cabral coming back for Revenge of the Sixth and everything, you're going to be able to be better set up shape-wise for when you win the ball back in your defensive third to actually go forward, and then also have a team that is going to be weaker when you do go forward and everything. I think the Rapids can have their way from an attacking standpoint in transition. I think it's a valid question also what happens on set pieces. The Rapids were set piece kings a couple of years ago. They were in 2021 when they won the Western Conference. They've yet to score a goal on a set piece so far this season. And so I look at it where I've seen just from afar that when the Galaxy have breakdowns on set pieces, it's usually really, really bad. I'm not sure who's going to play next to Jalen Neal. Jalen Neal's a young kid who I think has a lot of potential. I thought he was really decent in that USMNT start that he had as well as again. Lalas Abubakar is a meat truck. Andreas Makshu is like 6'3", 6'4", and everything. Danny Wilson has a big forehead that he likes to get onto a soccer ball as well. I think that if there's any team that the Rapids have played so far this season in MLS play, that they're going to be able to have their way in terms of getting corner opportunities, and then those being dangerous because the other team doesn't defend them particularly well. To say nothing of, I have to assume Jonathan Bond's still out. It's going to be Klinsman's kid. Yep. Yeah. I think the Rapids can have their way on set pieces as well. So defend in a defensive posture. Don't let Ricky Pooge beat you. Try and win the ball back in a decent position. Get the ball out wide. From going out wide, get the ball forward. Get the ball into a box with a potentially disorganized defense. Worst case scenario, you get a corner and then go create chaos, with Loki's toboggan.
Well, one of the things that Galaxy has really worked on that really stung them in the past was that defense that you mentioned. But they've been able to shore it up. Like Jalen Neal has been a complete revelation. He's been a lot of people will point to Martin Cáceres, his other center, one of our center backs there, as the most reliable defender that we have because of his experience, his World Cup experience in Uruguay, and just that presence that he has in the back line. But at his young age, Jalen Neal has been consistently one of the best Galaxy players that we've had on the field this whole season. He's really stepped up. For somebody that age, to be as calm, cool as a dog's nose, right? As he is, it's amazing. I always bring it up. I was like, man, when I was that age, I wasn't that relaxed, playing football. I was a forward at the time, but I was nuts. This kid he's very patient, very calm, almost to a detriment sometimes. And this is something I brought up to some of the other podcasts we dealt with, is that there's moments in the game where he has little mistakes that he makes, little things where I think he's a little bit too lackadaisical, a little bit too passive. And in those moments, the other team almost pounces on it and almost scores on him. And so far, it hasn't really stung us. Granted that the first goal Orlando got was on him, but that was just a great goal on a tight angle. But Jalen Neal is a pretty unflappable fella. And as far as the rest of the defense is concerned, like I said, I mentioned Martin Cáceres, who's one of the most solid center backs we find in the league. On the wings, Galaxy just picked up two guys almost towards the end of the transfer window. One of them is Julian Aude. He came over from Lanús in Argentina. He's our left back. And this is a kid who should be on the U20 World Cup roster, but Galaxy would not let him go. We were just announced today that Argentina is not listing him because Galaxy refused to let him go, which is unfortunate for him. You want your guy to get that kind of experience, but because Galaxy is their depth is so bad right now, they don't want to let him go. Just like Jalen Neal is supposed to be with the U.S. on that roster, they're not going to let him go. He's going to stay. He's going to miss the World Cup. You want this guy to be there because this is the future of our national team, correct? So, and then on the right side, one of the new guys that we picked up from Brazil is Lucas Calegari, who is amazing player. Every time he plays on there, it's like jogo bonito. He does something with his feet, and he's become an almost invaluable part of the team's build-up and play. He's been able to move up, cut across the middle, find passes to some of his teammates in the mid. He's even been able to join the offense and try to whip some balls into the box. But that is where Galaxy really suffers. Trying to find some way. Earlier in the season, it was trying to find some way to get Dejan Joveljic involved in the offense. He had really, really struggled. because I think that the offense, as it is set up, it's set up for somebody more like a Chicharito, who that guy can score anything. He can score his butt. He can score with the back of his head, right? And Daniel is just more of a guy that you give him the ball at the top of the box, and he'll find a way to make something happen. And that's just not the way Galaxy was set up. So that's our defense right now. Unfortunately, it's paper thin, the team. When any one of those guys gets hurt, any one of those guys gets suspended, and everything just falls apart.
We seen it last week with Orlando. With no Ricky Pooz and these struggles that we had to even create anything in that midfield. And now we're gonna be at home playing a team who has numbers back there every time they defend. Abubakar, one of the things that I noticed when you guys played Vancouver was he was checking gold like at the halfway mark. That's something that they could probably exploit with the LA Galaxy, where Abubakar actually checks Ricky and follows him everywhere that he goes and doesn't let him create anything. Another player from the Rapids that has always hurt us, and it wasn't with the Rapids. Barrios, when he was at RSL, he would destroy us, and that's another guy that's been destroying us ever since he's been in the league. Jonathan Lewis, last year that you guys came over, you guys beat us 2-0, and this man was on fire. Another speedy forward that could cause some damage to the LA Galaxy. I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know how we come home and get a W against Colorado. It's tough just because of the way that Fraser has the defense set up. You guys have numbers back there. I don't know what formation it is that you guys actually use. Sometimes it looks like it's 5 back there. Sometimes it's 3 with 4 in the middle. Whatever the disguise is, it's going to be tough for Vandy to try to crack that. And I don't know how you do it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it'll be depending on who's healthy, it'll be mostly a 5-3-2, a 3-5-2, and then it's been a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3, excuse me, Bryant at home, and then mostly a 5 back, and then it's a little weird because Max and Cole Bassett do some. Robin Fraser loves to have the team be very fluid, and when he has a lot of those guys who are multi-purpose in the team, and with the way that the Rapids put out their graphic for the lineup and everything, then it's almost a guess the formation kind of a thing. So I'd imagine something closer to a 5-3-2 or a 5-2-3, similar to what they had with Vancouver, but maybe a slightly more offensive posture as well. But it will be a back 5, and there will be 3 center backs, and their primary objective will be to shut down Chicharito and Dejan Jovic, and it'll be a double pivot in midfield. Connor Ronan will be one of them, and then if Brian Acosta can go, it'll be him. If not, it'll be Danny Leva, who we just touched on, and their primary job will be to neutralize Ricky Pooch. And if you can do that with, I guess, 3 center backs, 2 midfielders, I'll include William Yarbrough in goal as well as 6 of those guys, have the other 5 guys focused on just scoring that 1 goal, and then just frustrate the LA Galaxy. There's no mistake. All the pressure's on the Galaxy in this one. The Rapids can go in and get a draw and everything. It's frustrating from a Rapids narrative standpoint because, the team will tweet out, it's like, oh, we extended our unbeaten streak and everything. And then in the Twitter comments, it'll be, well, 5 of those have been draws, so it's also a winless streak. But, things are more toxic outside the stadium, in the stadium, on Twitter and everything with the fan base and all that stuff right now. The Rapids can go in there and just try and get a result. And, if they get, if the Rapids go in and score a goal, 10 minutes into the game, immediately the crowd's going to start booing and a bunch of people are going to start chanting Klein out. I don't know that everything doesn't get solved for Greg Vanney and for the LA Galaxy if Chicharito scores 10 minutes into Saturday.
Oof, I would love that. I agree, you're muted.
Yeah, I was going to say that on top of some of the difficulties Galaxy has had trying to score goals was that there's a lot of players that are upset or have shown displeasure at being at the team. One of them being Douglas Costa. I brought him up earlier. I'm sure you saw what he did to get suspended. To get the red card. We thought that was going to get a Gary suspension as well because he instigated contact with that player. And then, he pretty much choke slammed him or I don't know, like a rock bottom. It was pretty bad. And then fans have booed him at the stadium and he's tweeted out like, I love the hate, it fills me or something like that, something along those words. And there's a Galaxy fan that lives in Brazil, and I keep tabs with him, and I ask him all the time, what the heck's up with this guy? Is there any insider info you give me? He's like, man, that guy, all he cares about is partying. That's all he cares about. You guys are much better off without him. Get rid of him as soon as you can, because all he is a waste of roster space, especially as a DP. And I'm sure the team won't come out and say it publicly, right? That he's a detriment to that locker room, but you can already start to see the cracks of that because in our last show we actually featured some quotations from Chicharito where he was just Brian. Can you elaborate on that? Where he was talking about his teammates?
It was basically saying that how are you not motivated being in the LA Galaxy that pays you on time? And it was basically a direct shot. He didn't say any names. I'm pretty sure he wasn't going to, but it was pretty much a direct shot at Douglas Costa. Like, how are you not taking this serious? How are you not motivated? How do you not come to work and show up? And we 100% agree with that. You're getting paid. Us fans aren't personally paying this man. We get that. But the fact that this man has a DP tag that hinders the LA Galaxy, especially in the position that we need wingers who are productive. And this man just basically walks every game and just stealing the LA Galaxy's money. And he's laughing about it, which is something that infuriates us as fans. For me, I do not want to see this man play this weekend at all. He should not suit up. He shouldn't even be on the bench. But knowing Greg Vanney and his horrible substitution patterns, he'll probably end up putting them in there. Edgar, this weekend we're going to see a very tough defensive team. How do we beat the Colorado Rapids?
No, I would like to say it would have to be like on a set piece, or it would have to be some miraculous Ricky Puig pass to somebody streaking it, and maybe on a busted play, Chicharito gets a ball that just happens to float his way, and he gets the tip of his toe on it, or Dejan Joveljic decides to finally wake up from his slumber and create something from the top of the box. Another thing that we've been missing in this Galaxy team so far is that last season, Gaston Brugman, one of our CDMs, he would step up every now and then, and he would score these golazos. I mean, these amazing goals were from the top of the 18, and we haven't seen that at all this season. So there's a lot of stuff that last season really helped the Galaxy maintain some kind of stability and really feel that run to the playoffs at the end that has been completely missing this year. And I don't know, like for the longest time, Chicharito was missing. Then he comes back. He has a game against LAFC. Galaxy loses in a tough match. Then they have the game against Austin. They win. Then Puig is out, but now he's back. So all the cards are on the table, and it's be very interesting to see if they can figure out how to solve that defense of Colorado. Like I said, William Yarbrough is, he's a very respectable goalkeeper, and I know it takes a lot to beat him. So I don't know. I expect a very tough match. I don't know if Galaxy manages to win. I'll be shocked.
Yeah.
A draw to me is the most possible, but a win, as much as I know they need it, as much as I would love to see it, I don't know, especially with the history between Fraser and Vanney.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed in this last Colorado game versus Vancouver was Julian Gressel actually taking advantage on Beitashour's side, which is the side that Boyd plays. If I could see that a player like Julian Gressel was able to take advantage of that side, I'm pretty sure Robin Fraser is going to be able to adapt and put a body on Boyd and not let him do anything on that wing. I myself don't know either how you beat the Colorado Rapids. They're very tough defensively. And the last time that they came over, they beat us 2-0. The Galaxy and Colorado Rapids have 12 wins each with 7 draws. I don't know. I don't think we get one, to be honest. Let's talk some scores. Matt, I know you said 1-0 on your pod. And Rabbi say 2-2. Are you sticking with those?
I am sticking with 1-0, and I'm saying that because I'm galvanized based on the injury report that we got, that I'll just bring that up now. So a bunch of players are coming off of this. So right now, you just mentioned Steven Beitashour. He's questionable, as is Brian Acosta. So I've talked about what that looks like, but that means that Sam Nicholson's ready to go, and I think he is a better matchup speed-wise for a Tyler Boyd as well, potentially on that flank. So while Beitashour, if we were talking FIFA stats, Beta has a high defensive work rate. Sam Nicholson's probably even attacking and defensively as well. He's keeping up with Boyd in ways that Beta is not. And then none of the other significant out injuries are there as well. So you're looking at a proper bench, and then probably the closest thing to a preferred starting 11 from Robin Fraser, other than Brian Acosta not being in there. So I'm sticking with 1-0. I don't think it will be a convincing. I think it'll be an even performance between the teams. I think Diego Rubio creates something in transition, and it's a garbage goal for Darren Yappi to get his first MLS goal, and the Rapids just hold on for dear life as it's just like hopeless cross after hopeless cross into the box that Andreas Makshu and Lawless Abubakar just eat up as well. It will not be convincing. It will be a little bit smash and grab. Will Rapids fans take it? Absolutely.
100%. We won't. We're going to be mad after the game.
Mad before the game. Mad during the game. Mad after the game.
What you think, Edgar, score-wise?
I think Colorado wins like 1-0. It's like I said, it's just tough. It's tough to solve that defense, and I really wish Galaxy could get a 1-1. That to me would be positive. But I expect a 1-0 and very difficult draw. A lot of people are going to be frustrated because they're going to expect the team to really come and click on those cylinders off that tough loss against Orlando, and hopefully at home get some home cooking. But I say 1-0 and Cabral with the goal. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Now let's talk some Hollywood moments right there. The LA Galaxy and Colorado are going to be tied 1-1. 75th minute. Kevin Cabral comes in. He gets a big ovation.
Yeah, he gets a big ovation.
89th minute. Cabral scores the winning goal. And he does his celebration.
His little dance.
He does a little celebration to the crowd. And the LA Galaxy loses 2-1.
What happens when a striker who can't finish his opportunities runs up into a goalkeeper who makes mistakes that lead up into goals? So you've got the unstoppable force against the immovable object, but then like Kevin Cabral versus Jonathan Klinsmann is like the stoppable force against the movable object. Who wins that battle? We'll have to find out, Brian, in our Hollywood movie in the final minute of stoppage time on Saturday.
But what a story that would be. He finally scores at Dignity Health Sports Park. Ain't that some shit?
Yes. It'll be goal of the week, too, just because that's what the MLS script writers would want. Yeah, goal of the year. Kevin Cabral, goal of the year for the Rapids.
Beating the LA Galaxy. Ain't that something?
Yeah, hang that picture of Cabral celebrating on Klein's wall.
Oh, my God. You got anything else, Edgar, for us?
No, I just want to thank Matt for joining us. I really appreciate the fact that you joined us, and looking forward to hopefully doing this again later in the season. And you're always welcome here in LA. If you're ever down here, you're the rabbi. You guys are always welcome to join us. We got you. We'll hook you up. We'll make sure that you guys are treated like royalty.
Yes,
not that Salt Lake kind of royalty, like real royalty.
Get us some pupusas and some decent beer.
Oh, hell yeah.
I got you. My mom got you.
We don't need like royalty, like not even like Earls. I don't know, like Duke or like we don't need that much. Yeah. Pupusas and some beer. We'll take that. We don't need the red carpet or anything.
You said the magic word, pupusas. My mom got you. Don't even worry about that.
All right. Vamos.
All right. From Brian, Edgar, and Matt, we are out of here. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, keep on nagging.